Hi all! Today I'm coloring in Ivy and the Inky Butterfly by Johanna Basford. And so I'm using my Staedtler Pigment brush pens for this. This is what I always use in my Johanna books. I will supplement with a few other things, some watercolor pencils, some ink tints, my Luminence colored pencils, but this is the primary tool that I use for all my Johanna books. And so I thought I would turn the camera on and we would do a little bit of a color along as I do this page, as I work on this page. I am going to use this to kind of rest my hand on. We are going to do a soft pastel background when we're done. And so I don't want to get any of the oils from my resting hand on the page. So I am going to try to keep that going, and hopefully this is going to be close enough for you to see. Okay, so we are going to start with the ivy. So the ivy throughout this book, let me just show you. I use the same colors in this book as I go along for the most part. So this is the coloring of my ivy that we're going to do in this book or on this page. And then my ivy and my mouse are always the same colors too. So I'll show you that when we get to it. So we're going to start there and then kind of move around the page. But let me just clip that side down. This is the American version of this book, the US version. So it's a little bit bigger. The pages are a little bit thicker than my UK version. So just keep that in mind. If my version looks a little different than your version, that could be why. Okay, so the ivy trio that we're going to be using is, for the dark, is Fur Green and May Green is my color combo for my ivy. So we're going to just start here. And when I do this, you have to work fast with Staedtler Pigment pens because they will dry and then you won't be able to blend. But if you do it fast, they are very easy to blend. They're very juicy. I also will use pit pens in my Johanna books, especially if I need a specific color that maybe my Staedtler pens I don't have. I will bring those out, but for the most part, I can find the colors I need for my Johanna books in my Staedtler pens. Okay, so that's the first leaf. Hopefully you can see that. And as it dries, the blend will look even better. But again, I'm just short little strokes, working quickly, kind of bringing them in. Staedtler does make I think they just came out with a blending fluid for their pens, which I haven't tried that, but I'm excited to try that because I love all things Staedtler Pigment pens, so I'm going to get that and give that a try. But I haven't found that I don't miss it. I don't think I need it because these blend so beautifully, just kind of on their own. And this way, if you do use these pens, these markers, they don't bleed through, first of all, which is important since this is a double-sided book. I don't have any problems with that. The key is just is working quickly so that the blend is nice. The pressure also, it's very light, so I am just literally like touching the paper because these are so pigmented. Don't press down hard. And I have them, if you see, kind of on the side here. Hopefully I'm not, yeah, just check and make sure it's still in frame. Yeah, I have them on their side so that they, again, just a feather light touch for these pens. I think they're so vibrant. They're so pretty. I love these. And they recently came out with that, well, not recently. I think they came out maybe in Europe. They came out with the 60 extended colors set, which was really exciting. I think it was 60, because for a while we only had limited colors. And so I did find myself using my Pitt pens for my Johanna books more because I didn't have the colors I needed in my Staedtler. But the minute they came out with those new brushes, and then finally we could get them in the US, I got those right away and have been using those ever since. My Johanna books, I go in spats of coloring in Johanna. Probably like a lot of you, I started with Johanna Basford books many, many years ago. That was my first, I think Secret Garden was my first color book. I wonder how many people that color book was their first adult color book. Probably a lot of us. And then just kind of got addicted to coloring through that. And then I stopped for a really long time. I didn't color for a really long time. Got very much into art journaling, which I'm still very much into art journaling. And then through art journaling, found all this wonderful mediums. So got back into like art supplies and pens and pastes and all the things, pastels, through art journaling. And then somehow I was like, oh, those supplies would be great in adult coloring. So then brought back out my coloring books and started using all of my art supplies in my coloring books, and then again found my love of coloring that way. So brought out my old Johanna books. I brought them out the other day, and they are very old. So I again, a lot of my Johanna books are from the early days of when I started coloring, which I did not know how to color. And I say that, I mean, listen, what does that mean? You know how to color? Whatever you do for coloring is great. Like there's no right or wrong way. You could be looking at this and being like, I would never do that. And that's totally fine. Coloring should be a stress relief, and it should be fun. It should be whatever you want to do. But when I look at those old Johanna books that I have from many, many years ago, the problem was I didn't know how to use colored pencils, first of all. So there's absolutely no blend. I think I actually didn't really like colored pencils when I first started. I thought they were really hard. I didn't get it. I didn't understand why people liked it so much. And then I didn't understand pens, so I tried different markers, and they would bleed through onto the other pages. So I didn't understand about pigment pens versus water-based pens versus alcohol-based markers. So I didn't know all of that. So when I look back on some of my old Johanna books, I was like, oh, so many pages are ruined because markers bled through and stuff. So I actually, and I think I'm inspired in Johanna right now because she has her new Wildflower book coming out, and I'm really excited about that. So when I was looking through them, I was like, I am just going to buy some fresh Johanna books. So I did. This is a new version of Inky, or Ivy and the Inky Butterfly. So I got all fresh versions, and which is fun because a couple of her books, she's come out with 10th anniversary editions. So I got the 10th anniversary editions, and I got just a few other ones. And there's one book, I think it's Worlds of Wonder that I've been coloring recently, that I like those pages. That's kind of my new style. I like how I've colored in that. So I kept, I'm going to keep that. But the older books, I think I'm going to keep for other people to color in that might visit. I also might donate some of my older books that maybe have like one page colored in that is really bad. But somebody else could really enjoy the book. So I think I might donate some of my older books. And so I'm starting kind of fresh. So it's actually really refreshing because sometimes I bring out my old Johanna books and I look at those old pages that I just didn't really know what I was doing, and it kind of demotivates me to color in them. So now I have a fresh stack of beautiful Johanna books that I can start with using all the things that now I know that I love, now that I know kind of my style of coloring, which I think is key. You kind of have to find your groove with coloring, what you like, what pencils you like, what mediums you like. And listen, it doesn't have to be at all of what you see on YouTube. It doesn't have to be what other people like. Problem with these color alongs is that I am blind as a bat, and so I hope that this is in the, and I can't get as close as I normally would. So I hope that this is, I hope I'm in the lines. If I'm not in the lines, the key here is to stay within the lines if you can. But anyways, so yes, so I have all new sets of Johanna books. So you're going to see some of those finished pages coming up. I've been, again, kind of in my Johanna era in October. So I've been coloring quite a bit in her books, in these new fresh copies, which has been so fun, and just rediscovered my love of those books. Kind of reminds me of the old days. So I think her new book comes out in the beginning of November, so excited for that. Wildflowers, something about wildflowers, and we'll be coloring in that, and then I'll show my finished pages in that. So again, really excited to see that new book. It looks just beautiful. Okay, so this is what my ivy is turning out to look like. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to hold off on the little vines, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. But that, oh, there's two more leaves. Let me finish these up real quick. The key with ivy and the inky butterfly, if you haven't colored in this, is that the characters are the same throughout, which is fun because it's a storybook. And so once you do one page, the key, I think, I mean, of course you can make them whatever colors you want, is to pick your color palette for some of these key characters or key elements, and then continue it throughout the book. It actually makes it really fun so that you can have a very cohesive storybook at the end. My ivy she has a red dress, and she has dark brown, kind of black hair. So I'll show that when we get to coloring ivy. A little bit over there. Okay, so that I think is the ivy done for that part of the page. Okay, so let's move on to another element. Let me close these up. The caps match the color, which is super helpful. Okay, let us do maybe these. Let's start on up here on the owl and these leaves. So again, my ivy's always the same color, and my trees are always the same color. So I'll show you what those trees are. And then these leaves, I kind of always make these leaves a little bit fall. So for that color combination, we're going to use this color combination. So this is maroon, burnt sienna, sienna raw, and golden ochre. I have a yellow too. This is bright yellow. I think I'm going to use the yellow for the acorns maybe, but not for the leaves. So again, when I use these, because you have to go quick, take your caps off, and they'll be fine. They're not going to dry out while you're coloring. I actually pull this out so that I have my whole arm resting on the paper towel. Okay, are you in frame? Okay. So I always start, again, I do this for my pencil work too. I always start dark and I work to light as much as I can, especially when you're blending pigment pens. If you start light and then try to blend in with dark, the dark will take over. So start with your darks and then bring in your lights to get everything blended. But let's start with this leaf right here. I'm not going to worry about the veining. I'm just going to go over the veining. I know she has a lot of things that are outlined. For this leaf, I'm just going to work from the bottom and work my way up. The outlining, we'll come back to the outlining. So anything that you see that has an outline, I do that all together and at the same time with my pigment pens. So I'll show you how I do that, but I don't do that right now. So I'm going to jump from leaf to leaf. Again, very, very feather light hand with these pens. Just blending in, just like you would a colored pencil into the colors. I'm leaving a little bit, kind of going up. I'm leaving a little bit on the ends for the lighter color. Some colors are very juicy in my set. Some are a little bit less juicy, but they're pretty consistent. I actually have, I think, 3 sets of these now at this point, because I have my old set without the other colors. And then I have the new set, and then I have, I bought another set for travel because I was moving things back and forth too much, and it was making me a little crazy. And then I was losing colors because I was like, oh, is it in my travel bin? Is it on my desk? And so I bought another set for my travel pack that kind of always stays in there. And if you've watched some of my other videos, I think I posted a travel. If not, I should, because I think I filmed that. But when I travel, I have kind of a set supplies that I always take when I travel. And these pens are they always come when I travel, unless I'm testing out a new type of pen or art supply. Okay, so that's that leaf. I'm gonna do this one over here in the exact same way. So again, just starting out with the dark color at the base. And you can see hopefully you can see the blend. Hopefully I'm close enough. So the blend it goes on really easily, and it dries pretty quickly. Like my hand is kind of on this leaf just a touch. And I'm not getting the ink on my hand. And these are, once you put these down, these will dry. So I think I've mentioned my Kiritaki, my Futabioris, which I love. They're water-based markers. Actually, they're always at hand. They're always close. That's these. These I also will use in Johanna books, or when I need marker books, or I have books that take markers. I'll use those a lot. Those are, see, I shouldn't have done that because it started to dry. Those are great, and I will also use those. Those you can reactivate with water though, because they're water-based marker. So it's just a little bit of a different experience. So that's how those leaves are looking right now. That solvent for Staedtler, that blending liquid, I think the whole goal of that is that it can reactivate your pigment pens for blending. I think. Tell me if I'm wrong there, but I think that's the whole point of it, is that it keeps it wet so that you can easily activate the pens with water. So if I used a water brush right now, they would blend, like they would blend with some water, but not super easily, and it would get a touch patchy because it's pigment ink versus those Futabioris, which they're beautiful to blend with water. So I could do it with these, but the blend isn't great, and so I think the point of that new Staedtler fluid is so that you can blend it with water easily, but don't quote me on that because I have not used it. Okay, so there's a few autumn leaves. Let's see, I think for these that are divided with a lot of veins, I actually kind of do each one with a gradient. Whoa, excuse me. holding these pens the whole time you're coloring. I guess I do the same thing with my pencils. I don't mind sometimes when I do kind of these fall colors. I then don't have any kind of the bright green like you see with the ivy, because I want it to be all fall. But I don't know, I think this book, it's okay. There's so many leaves and so much green. I don't mind mixing the colors. One of the books that I've been working on besides for this one in my new stash of Johanna books is Enchanted Forest, which has been so fun. I think that was like her second book. So that is an early book, which you can tell when you look at the illustrations compared to her new illustrations, which I think is fun. But it's such a classic. So I think I've got like four or five pages done for that. So again, I'll show those in my October pages. And then, so Secret Garden, which was that the first book? Might be the first book. So I got the anniversary edition of Secret Garden, and that book has a lot of kind of do your own doodles and do your own drawings, which I don't think she does too much anymore, but it's very kind of prolific in that book. And in that book, so when she says to do that, I obviously am not an artist and cannot draw to save my life, but I love to stamp. So got into that from art journaling and scrapbooking and card making and all that stuff. So I have a ton of beautiful stamps. So in that book, when she says draw something or draw bees, draw a swarm of bees, I use my stamps. And then I color my stamps. So if you're interested in that, I can show you how I do that as well, maybe in a future video of how I use my stamps in my Secret Garden book. Anytime people ask me to draw in a book, pages, I think maybe Kirby does that too. Has a couple of things where it says, draw a doodle. I use my stamps. Okay, so this is looking, those are looking nice. Let's just do these up here real quick. Again, you have plenty of time that you can do this kind of thing, where you do the little bit of the dark and then the second color. But this is about the extent of how many you can do in advance before they start to dry, and you'll lose your blending ability. You just have to feel that out, like how much you can set up to do kind of quickly like that. But that's about the extent of it. This is another leaf that I need to have kind of a dark bottom. And then I love, once you get going, I guess I'm going kind of fast. This feels I'm going a little slower than I normally would. You can finish a page really quickly using your Staedtler pens versus your pencils. The thing with Staedtler pens too, because they're so vibrant, I do not go over this with pencil. I don't feel like I need to. You certainly can. You can do additional shading with your pencils, but again, I like to get a page done in one sitting if I can. These leaves that she does where she shades kind of, or she does lines on one side and then it's flat on the other side, I take that to mean that the shading is different. The shading is different on the leaf on both sides. So I usually do my normal combination on one side, and then on this side, I might, like, I'll lose the dark. And I'll just do majority one color. And then just do that one, so it's just a little bit different. Looks like we have another one down here. Again, it might look, for those who are new to Johanna's coloring, if it looks like a lot and a complicated page. I don't think any of you are new to Johanna's coloring though, because I think, again, I think that's how so many of us started. Which I'm very grateful to her for that. She's, what a contribution to all of us. So anyways, what was I saying? Oh, if it looks intimidated, the elements repeat. So if she has a lot of leaves, even thinking like the jungle book, which is, you know, all leaves and jungle and green, she has leaves that repeat and elements that repeat. So you just need to kind of figure out where the repeating leaves and flowers are. And that's what I do. I don't make them all different. I just make them, consistent so that I don't have to find a million different color combinations. This one I'm forgetting the yellow and just making this a little bit darker. Especially her wallpaper pages. Her wallpaper pages, if you really look at them, a lot of the same elements. So just find the same elements and repeat. Okay, how is that looking? Good? Do we get all the leaves, all the big leaves? We have these little ones over here. I think what I'll do, I'll just do 2 colors for these. It's nice though that when you have your 4 colors, right, you can combo them in different ways. So here I'm using the 2 midtones, and then maybe here I'll use the dark, just so that you have a little bit of a different, the dark in the middle. So it looks a little bit different. These little green leaves, it looks like those are kind of tied to this green. So I might actually do those in green versus in the kind of fall leaf colors. Okay, so while I have this out, I am also going to do my acorns in the same color, but I'm going to bring in the yellow. So I'm going to, let's see, let's do the caps first. So the caps, because I'm not going to do each little thing separately, kind of like how I do in my Millie Muratas. I just kind of lump them all together. Okay. Let's do this cap real quick. At the end, I do some accent, like with golds or white Posca, black Posca, gel pen, all. So as you're coloring along, I think it's good to kind of think through, is there something that you want to be accented? Because what I'm thinking right now, I'm wondering if I want to make these caps accented with something. I don't think I do actually, so I'm gonna, but you'll want to think about that while you're coloring so that you can leave space at the end for some of those things. This I'm just, again, blending the colors so that I can have a little bit of shading. and highlight. Okay, so there are my acorn tops. Now I'm going to lose the dark. And I'm going to bring in the yellow. So I'm going to start now with this color at the top. So this is now my darkest color because I put away that dark brown. I'm not going to worry too much about if I get on this this little detail right here, this kind of vine looking detail, because I think that is going to be accented. I might accent that in gold, which again I'll do at the very end. When I do my accenting, the other thing about this, so I do think it's kind of important to decide how you're going to do your, oop, that's not, need that color. I do think it's important to think of how you're going to do your background before you start a page like this, because I think it will depend on, it will impact the order. See, I waited a little too long to do this side with this color, so it's a little bit tougher to blend. It will impact the order of how you do things. So I'm doing soft pastels, and when I do soft pastels on Johanna books, I do it at the very end, and you'll see I go over my pen, and no need to panic. It doesn't dull anything out. Everything is fine, but I rub it over the whole thing, and so it's really easy to do a background. But what I don't like to do, I don't want soft pastel to go over any of my accent, like my gel pen, my glitter, my stickles, my Posca pens. So those are actually after my background. But I do my ink work first, and then my background, and then I do accents. But if you do acrylic background, or if you do other things, you might want to do it in different order. You might want to have your accents before you do your acrylics, or if you're doing Neocolor 2s, or something like that for your background, I would recommend doing that first and then putting your ink work down. I think you just kind of get to know that as you work along, but just so you know, I'll leave a lot of spaces and things that, especially for gel pen, like if I end up doing these vines with gel pen, again, that will be at the very end after I do my soft pastel background. So anyways, okay, so there are our acorns. I'm seeing these leaves that I forgot to do over here. So let's do those really quick. So I'm going to put my yellow away. I'm going to bring my brown back so that I can just finish these. I love this book. It is the gorgeous paper, and for the US version, sometimes our versions are different. I'm not going to say aren't as good, because they are very good. It's just they're different than UK version. But this US version, I think this is by Penguin, the US version, and the paper is almost like cardstock. It's so heavy for this particular book, for Ivy. It's different than her other, for me at least, it feels different than her other US versions of her books. I really, really like this book. Okay, so there's that one, and I have to remember how I did. Okay, just gonna have a little touch of the dark brown. Okay. Oh, see, and I forgot already to do my paper towel in this hand. So hopefully, and again, it's so that I don't get the oils on the paper, especially right where I'm going to be putting the soft pastels, because the soft pastels will cling to that. So I try. It's hard. It's hard to remember to keep your hand on that paper towel. Okay. All right, now I think those are done. Okay, so let's take a break from this color combo. So we're gonna put our caps back on our pens. Okay, let's move down the page a little bit. Let's do these little bellflowers. So for that, I'm gonna use just a combination of blues. So I'm going to use blue, Pacific blue, and light blue. And these I will, when I do my soft pastels, I am going to make these into lamps. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. Right now it's just going to be about getting the color of the bellflower down. That's the exact same process as we did for the leaves. Put the dark down first, the top, and then the medium. The colors are so rich for these Staedtler pens. I just love them. There's like little light bulbs in there. I think if I remember to, I think I can do some accent. We'll either do some gel pen or Posca to bring those lights back. Okay. And then we have one over here. Let's do this little guy. I think what I'm going to do is, because I do want to show you the soft pastel background of this page, but just so that it's not a million hours long, I think I'm going to do the adjacent page off camera, and then we'll do the soft pastel background, just thinking ahead. Okay, so that's the blue flowers. And then let's do the tree, because I want to show you how I do the tree. Okay, so if you have a big space like this, you will get streaks from these pens. So these little shapes, perfect. That's the perfect amount of space for these pens. That's why they're so good in Johanna books. But when she does the big spaces, it will show streaks. So that's when I bring out my watercolor pencils. So for this, I'm going to use my Caran Museum Aquarelles, but any watercolor pencil will work. So any that you have, the Albert Durs, the Koh-i-Noors, any will work. So this is just what I have at hand. So the colors that I'm going to use for the tree, the dark is going to be Castle Earth, then brown, then chestnut, and I'm going to end on cinnamon. So those are going to be the colors for my tree. I am going to assume that the light source, especially if these are the lanterns, are over here. So I'm going to have the lightest color be along the tree on this side, and then I'm going to have the dark over here. So for this, and again, this is the same for any watercolor pencil, I just put down the color. I start with the dark and color it in. There, you don't have to worry about blending. You don't have to worry about anything like that. It's just a light wash. These are pretty intense, these watercolor pencils, so I don't do a heavy hand with these. It's just a light wash. Again, I don't worry about going over the ink or anything like that. Don't worry about that. If I wasn't filming a color along, I probably would finish up all these flowers before I did this part. But I think what I'm going to do, again, because we're getting kind of long, I'm going to show you the different elements of the page, and then I'll speed along so that you can see, because it's the same process for all the different elements within the book, within the page, excuse me. Okay, so here's the dark down. A little bit right there. Just want to show some shadowing along this side of the page. That the tree kind of is this big tree. Okay. And kind of shadows off the side of the page. Okay. There's that. And then let's do our brown. Don't worry about the blend, because again, our water brush will do the blending for us. It's just about getting the color down with your watercolor pencils. That's why watercolor pencils, I think why people like them so much, is because you don't have to worry about the water will do the blending for you. So you don't have to worry about it too much. I do go over the other colors though a little bit to help that out. But again, you can do most of that with your water brush. I do use a water brush for this versus a paintbrush. Just find it easier. Okay, so we got our brown down. So I think we need to find a like a true kind of goldish color for that. So I am gonna bring out, so let's go through these real quick and find, because they're right here on top. Well, I think I might actually, what is this? Raw sienna. Yellow ochre. I'm going to use raw sienna for this. Okay. Sorry if I'm hitting you. Okay, so I just feel like I need a little bit of a, I need a little bit more highlight to show that there's going to be some illumination coming from those lanterns onto the tree, and that cinnamon just wasn't bright enough. And we're going to have that go down here as well, on the branch that he's sitting on. Again, I'm not going to worry about the parts that I haven't colored because the marker will go right over those, so don't need to be precious with all that. This probably looks very messy. That's okay. And then here's the dark on this tree. Because again, the light is coming from down below those bluebell lanterns. So where he's sitting, it's going to be a little dark. And then up here, there isn't illumination because the lanterns are down here. So I'm going to bring my cinnamon to the edge. Okay, so if that's our watercolor pencil, let me show you really quick how I usually do this. So I've got my water brush here. So this is my Caran water brush. I'll put a little water. So the amount of the water, I push it, but then I take so much of it off. And we're going to start at the light and work our way back. And I wipe it after each section. And I go in kind of a line here. Again, don't worry about those things that we haven't colored because we're going to put pencil. We're going to put gel pen or glitter pen or marker or something over that, so it'll go right over your watercolor pencil. Now this watercolor work that I'm doing here, I will go over this with pencil, so I'll show that to you. well. And again, because those pigment pens are pigment and not water-based, or I don't know, actually, I don't know if, is pigment water-based? I don't think so. I think that's the whole point. When you do this, it doesn't, you'll see I'm kind of going over the leaf and there's no bleed. It doesn't come into the tree at all. If I had used my Futabioris, it would have. So as I had done this work, again, when you think about your coloring page and your layering process, if I was going to use those, I would need to do my background first with all my water and then do any type of marker work, because they would bleed because they're truly water-based. But these pigment pens, I don't have to worry about it too much, because as you see, I am hitting those leaves and it's not picking up. So let's do the mouse. So the mouse, my color combination are my warm grays. So warm gray medium and warm gray light. So let's start with the warm gray medium. And we're just going to outline him. Just going to outline his body parts. so there you go. And then I'm going to go back with my medium. That was probably a little bit too much. See how it's not blending very well. The grays, I forgot. The grays tend to dry really quickly, but that's okay. I actually kind of like that look. Makes him stand out a little bit. If you go over with the same color, you can make some shading. So I'll do a little bit more here and see how it creates kind of a shading effect. Okay, that's our mouse. Let's do just a little bit around his ears. And then this is actually the back of his ears, so I'm gonna color that in. Okay, so that is our mouse. And then let's do Ivy's dress. So Ivy's dress is, again, I did her dress in red, so I'm using red and cherry red. Actually, I need scarlet. Where's scarlet? Here's scarlet red. Okay, so I'm actually going to use red and scarlet red. Scarlet red is a little bit orangey, so we'll do the same thing. So this is the red going around her dress. And then we're going to fill in with the scarlet. Those little leaves on her dress, I am going to color those in with a different color, with a green. These little nibs on these pens, you are able to get around really easily and get into all the nooks and crannies. But just make sure, again, feather weight, like really light hand around those little areas. And the key with these pens, again, is not to do big areas. Big areas, you will absolutely get streaks. Okay. And I like really bright colors, obviously, which is why I picked this color for her dress. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to do her flower in the same color so it matches her dress. So a little bit of the dark in the middle. And we'll go out to the light. Okay, so that's Ivy's dress. And then Ivy's hair, I do want it to be black with a little bit of dark brown and brown. So we can do her hair real quick. Let's start with the black, just this touch of black, just a touch, because the black is so pigmented. See how it just, I mean, it's so dark and pigmented. You just need the smallest little touch, and then the rest is just dark. I do want her hair to be dark, so this is perfect. When she's very small, like the illustration is really small in some of these later pages, I just use black. I don't care about doing the brown shading. And then I'll use my brown as we get down here, so our hair lightens. Again, these don't bleed once they're dry, but if for some reason it's the pen is not dry and you do a lighter color, like her skin tone, for instance, it will bleed. So just to make sure things are dry before you start the next color. So I'm going to wait for this to dry before I do her skin tone, which is why I kind of pop around to different areas while I'm waiting for other things to dry. Okay, so that's that. Let's do a mushroom real quick. Okay, so for a mushroom, I'm going to use, let's see, I'm going to use okay, cherry red, red, scarlet red, and orange. And I'm trying to remember, I think cherry red is darker than, let's double check. So that is red, and this is, yeah, cherry red is darker than red. Okay, let's take these off. And then I'm going to bring back my yellow. So that's going to be the combo. Okay, so am I starting with cherry? Yeah. So cherry red. Now this is pushing it for the size, for streakiness. You could do this with your watercolor pens, but I'm going to see how I can do with my Staedtlers. Again, not worried too much about going over those dots, because those dots we will definitely do with Posca pen. I think I'm officially running out of red. I don't know if you can see that, but the tips will start to fray on these. That's the only thing. But again, I've had that, I've had that red for ages. So I would not worry about these drying out at all. That red was one of my first pens, so I think it's just time for that to probably be thrown away. So a red and I think a green are the only two colors that have even shown any sign of drying out, or not drying out, but being like gone, like used up. You get so much ink in these pens. Again, working quick, especially when you're doing the light color into the orange. I find that that's probably the toughest blend, is yellow. So you have to be really quick with that and kind of go over it a few times. So yeah. Yeah, this red unfortunately needs to go away. So I'm going to put that aside. I do have another red. Hopefully this one, yeah, this is the newer red, so I'll replace it with that. Okay, so that's the mushroom. So let's do this mushroom next to it. I'm gonna do the same color combination for this one. So I'm gonna do red. This is cherry red at the top. My new red, oh, it's so much better. Oh my gosh. I think I've had that other red though for, I don't even know, 3 years maybe. So that doesn't bother me when they dry out. Use your stuff. Use your supplies. That's what they're for. Okay. And then the last color is the yellow down at the bottom. This one, it looks like kind of goes down. Just gonna make that go down. Okay. And there are mushrooms. Put our caps back on. Hopefully Ivy is dry. Ivy's hair is dry. So if so, we can go through and go do her skin tone real quick. Let's give that a little bit more time. Okay, let's do, that looks pretty good. Let's do a little bit of the pencil work, and then I think because we're approaching an hour here, I'm going to I'll show you the pencil work, and then I'm gonna finish up my pens off camera because it's all the same thing, and then I'll come back and we'll do the background together. But let me show you really quick. So again, I'm going to use my Luminence pencils. So this is sepia, sienna, and burnt ochre. You can't even see the names. These are so little, but that's always my brown combination. So again, we're just going to go over the watercolor pencil, make it a little bit darker over here on the sides. Okay, we're gonna do the soft pastel background now. So I'm standing up for this part. So let me just make sure that you are in frame. I finished up all my ink, again, using my Staedtler pens, and I did have to, let me reuse this piece of paper. I had to remind myself what a primrose look like. She talks about, in almost every page, Johanna always gives us a clue as to what the flowers are or what the colors of things should be. She talks about the primrose. So again, anything that isn't colored in, so the vines right here, the primrose centers, the snail shell, I decided I'm actually going to do that metallic watercolor. My butterfly, my inky butterfly, is metallic watercolor, so we'll do all of that at the end. So that will be part of kind of the embellishment. But so that is kind of what we're looking at like right now. So I'm gonna just reuse this piece of paper when I'm doing my pastels. I'm gonna put that back here. And I've got my clips just because I do need to kind of weigh this page down a little bit when I do this. It's still going to be a little, it's going to be a little hard to do the soft pastels because you don't want them to fall into this area. Okay, one more thing I need. So for the soft pastels, I'm going to use 2 different sets from Richeson. So these are my favorite soft pastels. So I'm going to use the secondary set and the vibrant set. So I'll show you what these look like. This is the secondary set. You can order these from his website. So I use this set a lot because it's greens, it's fall. So in all of my Johanna pages, you can see like I like to mix. So if it's kind of fallish up here, it's kind of summer down here. I don't worry about that too much. Sometimes I'll have like an all fall page or an all summer page, but I usually just kind of mesh it all up. So this set is perfect for me. And then the vibrant set, I need a few colors from this. So in the vibrant set, this set is so pretty. So these colors are vibrant. I use these blues a lot, and then this yellow is going to be really important. I'm actually going to maybe take both of these yellows out because this color combo we're going to use for our light sources. So, but the rest is going to be from this set. So let me move that out of the way. I do have some paper towels nearby. I have some baby wipes, so this does get a little messy. You want to be careful breathing soft pastel chalk in. So I will vacuum up after I'm done with the soft pastels. So, and be very careful. You're not going to like spread things. Just let the crumbs go onto your page when you're doing this, and then vacuum it up or slowly lift up your book and kind of tap it into the garbage, and then make sure your hands are really clean. You can also use gloves when you do this, but yeah, soft pastels, especially these soft pastels, because they're so vibrant, you just want to be a little bit careful. Okay, so you're always going to start with your light source for this. And again, we're not looking for perfection here. So I'm just going to do a little bit soft color around here. I'm not going to worry about the blend too much. It's just to give a little bit of a background flavor. So we've got a light source here, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 light sources here. I'm not going to say any light sources here. These aren't lanterns. I'm not going to worry about the light source of the windows here. These are ink tints, by the way. So I just use, every time I have a window, I use an ink tints combination. And I did a little bit of ink tints around here, just pretended like that was glass. So, okay, so let's, we're going to start with our lightest color. I don't put it directly on the page. This is where you're going to need your craft knife. So any type of knife will work. So just be very careful again with this. Again, don't worry about perfection. So the nice thing about nice, and it's good and bad. These have protectors, so it's nice because it doesn't get on your fingers. But it is, if you use soft pastels a lot, you kind of have to take those wrappers off. Okay, so I'm going to scrape a little bit. And again, I'm just going right over the light source. Don't worry about going around it. I'm just putting a little bit of the bright yellow right where we need it. Okay, that's it. And then let's do a little bit of the darker yellow just around the side of that a little bit. Again, don't worry about perfection here. Don't worry about like, oh, it's getting on my ivy. Don't worry about it. The pens, you can easily just brush off. So, you know, we'll figure that out later. Okay, so those are our light sources. So that's great. So now let's keep going. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use kind of a rusty color from the secondary set up on the top. So let's just embrace the fall up here. So again, don't worry about perfection. Just a little bit. I'm not going to worry about those smoke things coming out of the chimneys either. I was thinking for a minute I would do a little bit of smoke out of there. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to do my soft pastels. Okay, so that's my kind of dark brown. And then I'm going to use this color from the soft pastels, kind of an orangey. And I'm putting that underneath or at the bottom of those crumbs. Sorry, that noise is not very nice, is it? Of the scraping of the soft pastels. So again, I'm just trying to go underneath where I put that darker brown. But again, it doesn't really matter, just kind of mixing them up. Okay, so that's that part. For over here, so I can either do green to make it kind of lush, or I can do kind of a soft pink. I think in the past I've done kind of a soft pink. I think I'm going to do the green. So I'm going to start with my dark green, just like I did up top. Again, not worried about my pens, not worried about my drawing. I know it's kind of like a killer if you've never done this before. Okay, so this soft pastel is so soft. I'm literally just touching it with that. So that was the dark green. This is more of a mid-tone, pretty soft green. Put that. And again, it's just to create kind of a soft background. Don't worry if you mix up the colors. And then I'm going to go along the top with this brighter green. Just a little bit of scrapes. You need the very littlest amount of this. Don't worry if you get it on where you're going to do your watercolor later, because again, the watercolors I'm using, they go right over. They can go right over this. I'm going to do a little bit above the flowers. Do a little bit up here. This is the bright green. Let's go up a little bit like this. Around the butterfly. I think I'll do a little bit over here. See, this is where it's hard if the pages don't lay flat, because they fall into the middle. The soft pastel can fall into the middle. So try to get your page as flat as you possibly can. Okay, so that's that. This area, we've got the light. I don't know if I want to do, I can do a little something in here. Why don't we do a little bit of a violet color? I don't know. Maybe not a violet. Why don't we do that kind of mid-tone green over here? So just in this area. Again, not worried about what we haven't colored, not really worried about her skin. We can always fix anything we need to. I'm not going to do any blue for the sky, because I'm just going to leave this middle part as open. Okay, let's do a little mid-tone on the edge here. Okay, I think that's it. That's good. Okay, so see, you've got a little bit on your hands. Make sure you close up your knife so that it's not laying around open when you get into this. Okay, so I'm going to make sure your hands are clean before you start this. Oop, see, this is what happened. Happens when I'm standing and trying to do this. Sorry about that. Okay, so get your hands as clean as you can. I'm not going to use the baby wipe on my hands because, again, you don't want any water anywhere near what you're doing right now, or the soft pastels will just cling to it. I'm going to use cotton balls. So I'm going to use several cotton balls for this. You're going to start with your lightest color because you don't want the dark, again, to go into the light. So I'm not going to overthink this, and I'm just going to go for it. So I'm going to start with my lights here, and I'm going to go in circular motions around that whole area. That's it. I'm going to turn the cotton ball, and do the next one. Turn it, so then another side, and do the next one. Not overthinking it. Turn it. Not worried about anything, just kind of... Again, those Jack Richeson soft pastels are so vibrant. And then I've got a light source down here. So, okay. Now I've got some green that got into my light source. That's okay. We don't care. Okay, let's do this little area right here. I'm turning my cotton ball with, like, I'm assuming I have kind of 4 sides of this cotton ball. I am pushing that up into the yellow just a little bit right here. Okay, let's come over here. Start at the bottom. And I'm rubbing it around the bottom of this area. Again, I'm not worried about if it goes into the ink, the pigment ink of the Staedtlers. I'm not going to worry about that. It actually gives it kind of a soft, it blends everything together, I think. I'm not worried about if it goes into my pencil work. Okay, so there's the dark. So again, I'm going to turn my cotton ball. I'm going to do the next layer, and I'm pushing really lightly for this. Really, really lightly. So let's just kind of mesh the 2 colors together. Again, I don't care if it goes over my pencil work, even on my yellows. I don't really care. I'm going to turn it so that I have a free side of my cotton ball. And now I'm getting into the lighter green. And this is where I'm just going to lightly kind of let it go into the center there, very lightly. Let's get another cotton ball. Let's do this light part. And mesh those 2 together with the illumination from that lamp. Okay. That's looking nice. Let's do the side here. Hopefully I'm not in your frame. Just going up the side, small circular motions. Again, don't worry about that butterfly. We're going to put watercolor over it. It doesn't matter right now. Okay. That's with a little bit of a firmer pressure. I'm just pushing it into the paper here so I don't have any type of a line. I don't want a line. I just want it to softly kind of disappear. Same thing now again. I'm just kind of going over the area. I don't want any lines in my different colors. Like there's a little bit of a line right there, but I'm not going to worry about it. If you wanted to darken up this area even more, you could go in with a darker green. In this set, there's a really beautiful, really dark green. But I think for this, I'm just going to leave it like that. So I do go through quite a few cotton balls. I do this. Okay, let's do the top part. Okay, so again, we're going to start with the dark. So let's do that first. Just want this to be nice and kind of fall up there. Just going around, not worried about going over the pen again. This, I'm going to turn my cotton ball and just kind of rub these 2 together, so the light green and the fall color over there. Okay. I feel like I'm shaking this whole table. I'm sorry if I am. Okay, let's do the lighter. Let's do the lighter. color. Don't worry about the transition here right now. Just get the color put down in across around the area that you want it to be in. Okay. Come over here. Again, this is the same color, so I didn't really worry about turning my cotton ball. Okay. That's a really pretty color. Okay, it's pretty stark though, so I've got a clean cotton ball. And now is a matter of just lightening this up. You don't need to use all the pastel, all the crumbs. So I'm just trying to make it very, very light down here. I'm gonna use yet another cotton ball and just smooth these out. I don't have too many crumbs if I've done the right amount of pastels, usually. You don't need hardly any. That's the trick there. You don't need any shadings. They will work on their own. Okay, we don't want to overtake that yellow. So now for the transition right here, which is important, you're going to start with the yellow and kind of work your way up, so that you don't overtake that yellow. But you do want that to be blended. Okay. So I've got quite a few crumbs here. So I'm just being a little careful down here because I don't want it to be much darker. Okay. Here, you know, we've got a little bit of a line here for the blend. I'm not going to worry about that too much. In person, it doesn't bother me very much. You know, it looks a little bit starker on camera, but in person, it looks like a pretty solid blend. Okay, oops. Move it down a little far. Let's try to rub some of that off. That's okay. Okay. If you wanted to, what could be really pretty is if you put yellow in here. Should we do that? No, I don't think. Let's not do that. Okay, so now we've got our lamps down here. We lost a little bit of glow. So I'm actually gonna take my knife and let's do a little bit more of this lemon yellow. And you can definitely build up as you need to. So we're just gonna do a little bit. I'll bring that glow back. It's kind of a twilight scene here. Okay, so I think I am gonna, let's see if I can blend this together, use a little bit of that leftover yellow. Just a little bit. Yeah, I think that's okay. And again, if you want to darken up your edges, you could do a really like pretty dark brown here. You could do a dark brown or dark green down here. But I'm gonna leave it like that so that we can move on. So again, we've got a little bit of light down here from this lantern. And you see how the soft pastels, when you go over the markers, it doesn't really take anything away. It doesn't cover anything, but it just kind of brings it all together. And then we will brighten everything up again with our embellishments. Okay, so I've got it on my hands. I've got a little bit of dust. Again, do not blow the dust. Do not wipe it off. Do not get it on your desk. You'll want to use a little mini vacuum if you have one, or just kind of tap it off nicely in the trash. I do spray these pages. So when all is said and done, I will spray this page. But for right now with these pastels, because these are so good and we've really meshed it into the paper, I can now do my embellishments without having to spray first. But again, I will get rid of all the crumbs and things that I have around here. I'm going to go away and get rid of that, and then I'll come back and we'll do the embellishment and we'll finish off the page. Okay, first thing, we're going to do our embellishment first for our butterfly and for our snail with our watercolors. I'm using the Iuile, I think is how you say it. This is the autumn set. These are the colors that I chose to use for my butterfly. So this watercolor set I've used throughout this book for any time we have the butterfly. I'm using my Vinci Cosmotop spin, so number 4. So these are my favorite watercolor brushes. I just get them at my local art store. I have already sprayed this watercolor set with water, so it's kind of marinated in there for a little while. And I'm going to dip into this color first. I'm not doing wet on wet. I'm just doing wet on dry paper. This is a small little butterfly, so, and again, we have lots of soft pastels on here, so I don't want to disturb the soft pastels. Hopefully you can see the metallic of that. Probably can't. I'm gonna do it and then I'll lift it up and show you. But as you can see, the watercolor is just fine on the soft pastels. No problem. Not gonna spend a lot of time on this. I'm just making sure the colors match. I do have a paper towel down because again, those soft pastels have not been set. So you want to be careful about that. I'm dipping into my yellow. She is basically pink and yellow. That's the color that I chose for my Inky butterfly. I love these metallic watercolors. You can get them directly from their website, but I think they're also available on Amazon, or some of them are. So I really like them. I use them a lot. I think they're made in California. Ugh, don't quote me on that. I might have misspoke. Okay, so I've got my 2 colors down, and then I'm just gonna blend them together. And then I will go in, every time I do watercolors, I will go in with a black fine liner and bring back the lines, because when you're coloring, they will disappear, but I like the definition of the black lines. I'm gonna go into this bright pink now and just do a little of the darker bright pink in the center. And then the body of the butterfly, I'll use just my black Posca. All right, so that's that. And then I'll show you the shine of that when I can move my book safely. I don't like what I'm doing here with my water up on top of my book, because if I drip water droplets on the soft pastels, you're done. There's nothing I'll be able to do to fix that, I don't think. But I am gonna work on the snail now. I'm gonna move my water to the side here. Okay, let's work on the snail. And I think for the snail, I have not colored the snail before. I don't know if that's a new animal. I'm gonna dip into this really pretty brown. It's kind of a reddish brown. I'm going to do that on the outside of the coil of the shell. Again, I'll show how those shine in a minute, because it might just be looking like brown to you. But but it does have a really pretty metallic glow to it. Okay. So that's that color. Next, I'm going to go into this kind of rusty, really pretty rusty copper metallic color. Let's do that. Now that is too much water for a coloring book for watercolor, so I'm taking some of that off. I know when we do real watercoloring, the key is lots of water, but for color books, certainly don't want this page to buckle. Sometimes I don't really care about that, but in this book, I'm just using it as an accent, so I don't really want it to buckle. I like this paint set for this page that we're working on because the colors match my like owl situation up there, my kind of fall palette up there. Okay. So there's those two colors. Okay, and for the middle, for the inside of his coil, I want to go back into this bright pink. That's getting a little dry. Let's put some more water. Let it marinate for a few more minutes or seconds. This is a really bright, like hot pink, kind of like this echinacea right here, which is pretty. Hopefully my hand is not in the way. Okay. And let's put some of this hot pink in the inside. Just make it, help it glow a little bit. When I do that, I'm kind of taking away some of the copper color that we put down. But I'm doing that on purpose so that we have a little bit more of the pink, because I think the pink is so pretty. And it kind of matches what we did for the butterfly. That that border, or the thing that I'm going over, don't worry about that. I think I'm gonna do that with a gold. I'm gonna do a gold pen with that. Okay. Again, I'm not spending too much time, just kind of going over this. This set is so pretty. They're all so pretty. Any of their sets. I think they're really nice. I'm gonna do a little bit more brown. I think just smooth that out a little bit. Again, don't worry about this border, because I think I'm gonna do that in gold after this dries. Oops. Taking off some of my color. Be careful there. Okay. A little bit more around the side. Okay. That's good enough for me. She says that as she keeps tinkering with it, which I could do for days, but I'm going to be done. I'm going to let this dry, and then I will come back and we're going to do all the outlining of the watercolors. We'll finish doing the embellishment and we'll finish the primrose. So 1 second. Okay, we've given this lots of time to dry, so you can see the metallic shine of the shell and the butterfly. And so now we are going to finish our embellishments. So we're going to use some gel pen. We've got all of these good things right here that we're going to use. I'm going to set this aside. I also got just recently, so I know you all have and use these Languo pens. They came out with these click pens. I don't really have any of the other ones, but when they came out with these, I thought I would try them. So they're 0.7 millimeters. I got the 90 colors, and they come in a box. They look like this. I think there's like 3 or 4 tiers. But we'll try these. We'll try these out together, and I'm just gonna pick a green. So looks like we've got a few options for greens. Let's see. Maybe we'll try these out real quick. They've got the little red stopper on the end. Let's see. Look pretty similar. I love the click, and I don't have to deal with pen caps, which is great. That's going to be too light. Okay. So I think it's going to be between, it's these right here. I think it's going to be between these two. I'm just going to use the first one, kind of the lighter. Okay. So in these little areas that are hard to see with the dark background, that's where we are going to focus our gel pen. So I'm going to just take a second and see how this gel pen works. Very nice and smooth, easy to use. These are great, I can tell you right now. Very opaque. And they go over the pencil work and the Museum Aquarelle that is on here just very easily. And again, as I'm doing this, I'm seeing a little bit of pastel that might have stuck to my pen work if my pen wasn't completely dry. So just make sure that your pens are completely dry before you do that oil pastel or that soft pastel technique, or it will stick. So that leaf, some of these leaves look like they were probably not completely dry. That's okay. Usually when you do have to press down on these gel pens to activate them. Usually when I spray at the very end, any soft pastel that might be sticking onto different parts of the picture will go away. So, but even if it doesn't really bother me. Again, I kind of like the look where it all melds together. So hopefully you can see some of this gel pen work that we're doing. So again, just going over the ivy. That's cute. I actually didn't see that she's holding on to the ivy right there to kind of climb up the hill. There's a little curly Q here. So it's that. Okay. So we are going to, let's turn our book a little bit. There's a little bit here that we want to do. Right here. So I'm probably going to turn this book upside down for a second so that we can do this side. You should always work left to right. and I will always forget to do that. Okay, so I'm putting a paper towel because again, we have not sealed those, our soft pastels, excuse me. so that's the green of the Languo pen. Let's work on some of the black that needs to happen. So for this, I'm going to use the Posca 1mm. So I have two versions. I think I'm just going to use the really skinny version for this. So shake it up, press it down to prime. Let's go back to our door. I'm going to do the hinge just in black. Again, it goes right over any of your, if you got some Staedtler pen on this white part, it's no problem. It goes right over. You might be able to see now that we're looking at the door, like around here, there's a few places that too much blending with those pens, so it started to pick up a little bit. Not bad, but it is something to just be aware of. Okay. And again, I do all of this work after the soft pastels because you don't want those soft pastels to stick to anything. For the doorknob, should I do the door? Should I do this in black? Maybe I'll do this part in black. And then we'll go back with some gold. Make the doorknob gold and the hinge or corners. And then try to make the keyhole gold. So that's black. What else do I want to make black? We have a little hinge here and a little hinge here. So make that black. Okay, and then we're gonna make his antenna black versus gold. And I'm forgetting my paper towel to rest my hand on. Those pastels though, they really do stick to the paper, so it's not gonna be a big mess. It's just to be safe. Okay, and then let's do our butterfly. I'm gonna make her body black and her head, and then her two little antennae. And we're gonna come back and do some outlining on that butterfly in just a second. Okay. Now for gold, I'm going to use the Golden Shine marker. Excuse me. It's in the gold color. These come in a pack of like 6, and they have a fine nib, so I really like them. So you have to shake them up just like a Posca pen and prime. Okay, let's do around the shell of our snail. Just defines the watercolor, I think, a little bit more, to always outline your watercolor. So on my completed pages, when I film that in a few weeks, I'll show you, I did the big image of the butterfly, of the Inky butterfly, in all of those watercolors, and then did a lot of black outlining. So that's just what I like to do whenever I use watercolors, just to clean up the edges. All right, so there's that in gold. And then up in the owl, I was gonna do some gold here. So let's do, okay, get my paper towel. Let's do gold around here. See, and then the problem is I use that paper towel to prime, and then I get stuff on my hand. Okay, all right. So these swirly marks, I'm just making gold to add some shine up here. And then should be good. I think this pen is getting a little low, but hopefully you can see that kind of glitter shine, which is just so easy to use. And I love that. I love the little nib. I like the super golden markers, the ones that, you know, we've all been using for a long time. But the nib is so big. It's like a Posca, like 5 or 3 millimeter, and this is a little fine nib, so I use it a lot. Let's also do gold here on the acorn. I don't think, while I'm embellishing this page, I don't think I'm going to do a lot of highlighting. I am not big on highlighting because I'm not that good at it. Some people can really make a page come to life with highlights, which is awesome. Oh, I missed some leaves up here. Okay. I don't think I'm going to highlight that in gold. I think it's fine. What else? Oh, I was going to do the key. So there's a little key here. So let's make it a gold key. And then we can make this gold here on the door. And we'll make a gold doorknob. And a gold lock there. Okay, I'm also going to add a little bit of gold embellishment on her dress, just on her sleeves. Maybe you can have a little bit of gold. I'm realizing as I'm looking at this close, around this ribbon, I forgot to, here we go. Okay. So that's the gold. What have I done? The gold, the black, the green. So let's work on the primrose with the Posca pens. So I'm going to take two. I'm going to take these two, I think. No, I think I'm going to use this size. So this is the yellow and the white, 1 millimeter. So we're going to shake those up and prime them. I'm going to put the white down first on each of these. And then let's see, we also need to add the dots on the mushrooms. So let's do that. Again, you should have done that. I should have done that before I did this because now I'm in fear of dragging this. So now I have to turn my book upside down. So don't do as I do. So that's our mushroom done. Is there anything else on this page? I'm not going to worry about the smoke. You could outline the smoke in white if you wanted, or use a chalk pastel or charcoal to make that look like smoke, but I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so I think we're just about done. I think the last thing I want to do, looks like I forgot to outline something down here where my clip is. Use this kind of bright green gel pen. Just real quick. Forgot about you. Again, we have some soft pastel that kind of stuck to that yellow flower. It's totally fine. Doesn't bother me. Okay. What was I doing? Oh, all right. I'm going to use this. This is the Pigment Sensei from Sakura. This is a fine liner in 03. And we're just going to do a little bit of outlining on the butterfly just to bring the lines back after we watercolored. Easy as that. Nothing complicated. It helps define the butterfly a little bit. I always do this after I add watercolors, just to bring back the definition of the veining of the wings. All right, I think with that, I think we're gonna call it a day. So hopefully I didn't forget to do any parts of this, but let me zoom you out just a little bit. Oop. And I'll take a picture of this as well so that you can see it, but here is our picture. Go close up. And again, if you wanted to do some more highlighting, you definitely could. But I am going to call that a day and say that that is done. Our ivy and the Inky butterfly page. So thank you so much for watching. If you are still here, I really appreciate it. I hope that was helpful. And I hope you rediscover this book if you haven't been in it for a while, as we approach time for her new release, Johanna's new release, coming soon, I think in early November, with the Wildflower book. So anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks again so much for watching. Bye.